Ever wonder what makes a TV show truly unforgettable? It's the characters. The ones who feel so real, you'd swear you know them. The ones you root for, cry with, and sometimes even love to hate. Today, we are diving deep into 5 iconic TV series to talk about the characters who didn't just play a role, but defined their entire show. From the brutal lands of Westeros to the high-stakes world of meth empires, these are the legends of the small screen. So, grab your popcorn, because we are starting with a journey into a world of dragons, honor, and betrayal. First up, the global phenomenon, Game of Thrones. In a show packed with hundreds of characters, a few stood out and captured our hearts and minds. Let's talk about Tyrion Lannister. In a world that values strength and beauty, Tyrion had neither. He was ridiculed, underestimated, and constantly in the shadow of his powerful family. But what did he have? A brilliant mind and a sharp wit that were more dangerous than any sword. He navigated the treacherous politics of King's Landing not with force, but with intelligence and a surprising amount of compassion. Remember his trial? "I wish I was the monster you think I am." That line gave us chills. It was a culmination of a lifetime of being misjudged. Tyrion showed us that true strength isn't about physical power, but about resilience and a clever mind. He wasn't a hero in the traditional sense, but he was a survivor, and his journey from a despised outcast to a key player in the great game was nothing short of masterful. But you can't talk about Game of Thrones without mentioning Daenerys Targaryen. Her transformation is one of the most epic character arcs in television history. We first meet her as a timid, exiled princess, sold off by her own brother. She was a pawn, but slowly, she found her strength. From walking into fire and emerging with 3 dragons to freeing entire cities of slaves, she became the breaker of chains, a symbol of hope for the downtrodden. Her belief in her destiny was infectious. We watched her gather armies, navigate betrayals, and challenge the established order. Whether you agreed with her final choices or not, you can't deny the power of her journey. She taught us that even from the most powerless beginnings, one can rise to command the world. Her story was a fiery testament to ambition and power, and the complex, often tragic path of a revolutionary. Now, let's break out of Westeros and into a maximum security prison. Let's talk about Prison Break and the genius at its center, Michael Scofield. This show had a premise that hooked you instantly. A man gets himself deliberately sent to prison to save his wrongly convicted brother. And Michael wasn't just any man. He was an architectural engineer who had the prison's blueprints tattooed all over his body in a hidden, cryptic code. The sheer brilliance of this concept is personified in Michael. He was always 10 steps ahead. Every obstacle, every unexpected turn, he had a contingency plan hidden somewhere on his skin. He was calm under pressure, a master of manipulation and improvisation. But what made him truly great was his motivation and unwavering love for his brother, Lincoln. This wasn't about ego or glory. It was about family. We were on the edge of our seats not just because the escape plans were clever, but because we were invested in Michael's desperate, high-stakes mission to save the one person he cared about most. He was the ultimate chess master in a game where one wrong move meant death. But even a genius needs a nemesis, and in Fox River State Penitentiary, that nemesis was Theodore Bagwell, or T-Bag. T-Bag is one of those villains you just love to hate. He was vile, cunning, and utterly terrifying. Yet, you couldn't take your eyes off him whenever he was on screen. He had a chilling charisma and a way with words that was almost poetic, which made his brutal nature even more unsettling. T-Bag wasn't just a physical threat. He was a psychological one. He could sniff out a weakness from a mile away and exploit it with surgical precision. He forced his way into Michael's escape plan and became a constant, unpredictable threat. What made him such a compelling character was that despite his monstrous actions, the writers gave us glimpses into a traumatic past that shaped him. It didn't excuse him, but it added a layer of complexity that made him more than just a one-dimensional monster. He was a force of nature, a cockroach who would survive anything, and Prison Break would not have been the same without his terrifying presence. Let's move from prison cells to a beat-up RV in the New Mexico desert. It's time to talk about Breaking Bad and the man who knocked Walter White. Has there ever been a more staggering transformation on television? We meet him as a mild-mannered, overqualified high school chemistry teacher beaten down by life. He's a good man, a family man, who gets a terminal cancer diagnosis. His decision to cook meth to provide for his family after he's gone seems almost noble at first, but That's the genius of the show. We watch, step by painful step, as Walter White dies and Heisenberg is born. His pride, his ego, and his thirst for power corrupt him completely. He goes from a man who is afraid of everything to the man who says, "I am the danger." Vince Gilligan, the creator, wanted to turn Mr. Chips into Scarface, and he succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Walter's journey is a cautionary tale about the darkness that can lie within an ordinary person, and it's one of the most compelling, tragic, and terrifying character studies ever put to screen. And you can't have Walter White without his other half, Jesse Pinkman. Yo! Jesse was initially supposed to be a minor character, killed off in the first season, but Aaron Paul's performance was so electric, they knew they had to keep him. Thank goodness they did. Jesse was the heart and soul of Breaking Bad. While Walt descended into darkness, Jesse was his moral counterweight, his conscience. He was the one who suffered the consequences of their actions, who felt the guilt and the pain. He was a deeply flawed kid, but he had a good heart. Think about all the tragedy he endured. Jane, Andrea, Brock. Your heart broke for him over and over again. His relationship with Walt was the core of the show, a toxic, manipulative, and yet strangely paternal bond. Jesse's journey from a small-time, goofy meth head to a broken man desperately seeking redemption was just as powerful as Walt's, if not more so. His final, triumphant scream of freedom is one of the most cathartic moments in TV history. Alright, let's switch gears from the criminal underworld to a world overrun by the dead. The Walking Dead. This show wasn't just about zombies. It was about what happens to humanity when civilization collapses. And no character embodied that struggle more than Rick Grimes. We see this terrifying new world through his eyes as he wakes from a coma to find everything he knew gone. He starts as a sheriff's deputy, a man of the law, trying to hold on to his moral compass in a world with no rules. But over the seasons, we see that compass flicker. The world forces him to make impossible choices, to do terrible things to protect his family, his real family, and the one he forged from survivors. Rick's journey is about the cost of leadership. How much of your humanity do you have to sacrifice to keep others alive? From the clean-shaven deputy to the bearded, hardened survivor, his physical transformation mirrored his internal one. He was a flawed leader. He made mistakes, but he never ever gave up. But in the post-apocalyptic world, sometimes the most compelling characters are the ones who adapt in the most unexpected ways. Enter Carol Pelletier. When we first meet Carol, she's a timid, abused wife, arguably the weakest member of the original group. If you had to bet on who would survive, she wouldn't have been a top pick. And that's what makes her arc so incredible. She lost her daughter, she was banished, and she endured unimaginable trauma. But she didn't just survive. She became one of the most capable and ruthless survivors of all. Remember, Look at the Flowers? That moment was a turning point. It showed she was willing to do what no one else could, to make the hardest decisions for the greater good. She became a chameleon, using her unassuming appearance as a weapon. She went from a victim to a warrior, a one-woman army, proving that in the world of the dead, the strongest survivors are not always the ones with the biggest muscles, but the ones with the strongest will. Who did we miss? Who are your all-time favorite TV characters? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more content. See you next time.